Good evening, everyone. It is January 2nd, and this is the first show for the new year, 2019. So happy New Year. As you can see on the right, we have our new logo up. We're starting a couple of minutes early because there may have been a conflict on the scheduling time, but I didn't want to lose the time slot. So I'm going to call up John here. Good evening, Mr. DePietro.
Mr. Zagami, it's a pleasure to see you in this new year, and I'm excited about tonight's show because everything old is new again.
That's right. That's right. We got tremendous guest tonight. Not too much going on during the holiday shutdown. We did manage to do a few pre-show videos. We got the first round of sneak peeks in that hopefully people are seeing on the website. We got the sneak peeks and we did the pre-show videos. So hopefully they've seen all of those on the Facebook page right here and have enjoyed those. And there'll be more of those coming as we get closer to the show on January 18th.
Which is just what, 3 weeks? 3 weeks away.
16 days.
Right.
16 days, yeah. Just a little over 2 weeks. So we are early. We do have one viewer, so we know we're live. And I'm going to bring up our guest. And here he is, Mr. Greg Gerber. We are on about 6 minutes early. We do already have a guest showing up, but I didn't want to lose that time slot, so I wanted to get on and we can chit-chat a little bit as we get some more people on there. But welcome, Greg. It's a pleasure to see you in the flesh, and it's going to be a great show tonight.
Thanks, guys. I'm excited to be here. This is my first Facebook Live appearance ever.
And it won't be your last, Greg, because you know what? We have listened to your podcast for the past at least a year, and there's nobody that delivers a better podcast until Zagami and I start ours.
Right.
About the RVing industry.
You'll have competition soon.
And, Greg, writers don't often make the camera, but you're the exception to that rule.
Well, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
And there's usually a reason why.
Yes.
There's usually a reason why, Greg.
That's right. Never first paid for podcasting.
But you know what, Zagami, look at Gerber's smile. And when we talked to him back, where were we going? Down to Hershey? He wasn't in the same spirit that he is in right now. And it's so nice to see him rejuvenated and ready to go and bring that publication to the extent that it can be, make it the best of its kind in the industry.
Yeah, it is great to have him back, and we're going to go through a lot of those stories. Before we go to that story, and let's see, we got Walter on. Walter Swenson is on. He's coming in. Oh, he's already
he's already
state director. Him and his wife Donna. Yeah, Happy New Year, Walter. He's a regular and contributes quite a bit to our conversation. So I'm sure he's glad to see you back too, because you've got coverage on Good Sam for there too. Before we jump into that, and we're getting close to 6:56. You want to tell us about your weekend, John?
What aspect of it?
Huh?
The newsworthy aspect?
The newsworthy. You were just on the Channel 4 News here in Boston. You may be on the CBS News nationwide.
I don't know. We're hoping to get a trip out to California to do Oprah, but about a year ago, my cousin called me and said he got a call from somebody who said they might be related. And I congratulated my cousin on having a new brother. And he said, no, I think it's you and not me. So through that Ancestry.com program, we discovered that in 1945, there was a young man born in upstate New York at the same place that my father was at a military base. And we met for the first time face to face over the weekend, and it's become kind of a media frenzy. As I said to my wife last night, or just an hour ago, I said, I've been on more media outlets, including tonight, in the last 3 days than I have in the last year or so. But we're pretty excited. It's surreal because it's an experience that I've never had before. And the crazy part is I wasn't the one who was looking. He's been looking, as he said. He knew that there was somebody else when he was 3 years old. He said, I know I'm not the only one, which is kind of interesting because that's 2 years before I was even born. So unless more people show up, I think he's the only missing link.
Well, we got Michelle and Laurie joined us, and check the comment that they just put up. They enjoyed the story, but check that one out. Can you read that, John?
Oh, Laurie found her sister and yet to see her. Well, you know what? It's amazing. It's amazing. It really is amazing.
Yeah.
But through technology, we're able to do that, and that's that. It's got nothing to do with RVing, but it's got. If we're just trying to kill time until 7 o'clock, that's a good way to kill time.
No, we'll get into the Gerber. We'll get into the Gerber conversation, but I thought that was a nice sidelight to.
I just got a text from somebody in Miami at the airport a few minutes ago. They saw me on the TV in the Miami airport, and then a call from a neighbor in Massachusetts who saw me on the TV station up there. So
most airports are locked into CNN, so I don't know if they really want to be going on CNN, John. I don't know.
Whatever. But all right, pretty cool. Hi, Lisa Warren.
Yeah.
All the way from Texas.
So we've got Mr. Greg Gerber on with us tonight, and most of our viewers probably already know the name. They may never have seen him in the flesh because Greg just told us this is his very first Facebook Live ever. So not only do we get the first interview with the publisher as he relaunches RV Daily Report, but we get him on Facebook Live for the first time too. So that should make you feel pretty good there, Mr. Gerber.
It does. It's good to be back, and people have been very receptive. I'm excited to launch in the new year.
Well, we've had a lot of good comments about you coming back. There's no question there. Lisa Warren. Oh, hi, Lisa. That's Lisa is Alan Warren's wife, who does the RV Show USA. Greg, I think you know about that one.
I'll be on them next.
You'll be on them next
tonight. Yes.
What do you like, the media darling of America here?
I guess so. It's a slow news week, being the best week of the year.
I know that because you don't start. Greg, tell us when you're going to start your publication, and tell us the difference that the new format's going to have. I know you want to be business Monday through Friday, but consumer on Saturday.
Yep, we are in a planned 2-week hiatus right now. We do this every year around Christmas and New Year's, where we shut down to give the staff a little break. And most of the industry shuts down during this time as well. So it just seemed obvious that we should do the same thing. When we come back on January 7th, RV Daily Report will have a brand new look. We have a new website. It's up and live right now. And we have a brand new newsletter that is going out every day. And it's in test mode right now. So the stories that we are posting today, news releases and things like that come in, are being sent out in this test mail so that we can make sure everything is working properly before we introduce it to tens of thousands of people here in a couple of days. But we are trying to develop RV Daily Report into a hybrid publication. It was founded as an industry-only newsletter. In fact, it was the first daily industry newsletter in the RV market. And that served us well. But even though I was told in April of 2009 that I was crazy, there was not enough news on a daily basis to justify a daily newsletter, all of my competitors have a newsletter now. And we need to differentiate ourselves a little bit more as we are reinventing the newsletter and RV Daily Report. So we're going to turn it into a hybrid publication. Monday through Friday will be focused on industry news and things that people working in the industry will be interested in. Come the weekend, the focus is going to change entirely to be 100% about RV users, because we realize that there's a great population of people out there who are just new to the RV industry and need to know everything that we know already and take for granted.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, when you talk about the RV users, that is something that came from pure experience, because in 2014 you sold your house, bought an RV, and you became the only journalist that we're aware of. Well, Mike and Jennifer are almost full timers, but you went full time. You sold the house and you lived in an RV for 3 years, and from that experience, you had good experiences and bad experiences. But you understand the RV as a journalist probably better than 99% of the people that are supposedly writing about this industry, but who have never actually been in an RV or never been in a campground.
I'd agree. It was an eye-opening experience for me. I had covered the industry as a journalist since January of 2000. So I already had 14 years experience under my belt, and I thought I knew just about all there was to know about the RV industry and RV lifestyle. So I got this motorhome, a 35-foot Winnebago Adventurer, and hit the road full-time, traveling all over the country. I was at every state except Hawaii, and interviewing RV dealers and manufacturers and suppliers and campground owners and RV owners themselves. It was a great experience, but it opened my eyes to some of the problems that the RV owners are having. And it was just a unique opportunity for me to really see the industry from a different perspective. I'm glad I did.
And now that you caught your breath and you're ready to go again, you can still draw upon those experiences and know what new people are going through. And even veterans, right?
Check out Don's on top of everything.
That's right. We remembered, or I named the motorhome Nelson after Georgia and Bob Nelson, who were the people who originally owned the motorhome and sold it to me. So Nelson and I went on the road together.
Dawn's got a good memory. I couldn't remember. I knew it had a name. I just didn't know what it was.
we have another. I got to go through these comments. We got a lot of people wanted to see you tonight. Here's a good friend, Greg.
Oh, Mary, wonderful. We're going to do a great story about her son, Nolan, here early in January. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Mary, I have a grandson named Nolan, too, so we have something in common, even though we've never met.
Yeah. Well, it's a great story.
You're both Italians, too.
Yeah. Nolan is the only Scholastic Magazine accredited journalist in Ohio. And he and his brother have also done some remarkable things with videos for Mom and Dad's dealership, Heartland RV. Right. So it'll be a great story.
Hartville RV in Hartville, Ohio. Yeah. And Jeff Astorian. Jeff is responsible for he's the chairman of the RV Learning Center, I think. Is that the right? I may have the wrong title there, but I know he's actively involved.
And Greg, just to show our bond is even stronger, I did watch the Ohio State game on TV last night.
Very cool.
I don't know who they played or if they won or not, but I remember they were playing.
They did win.
Okay.
Yeah, they did win. And Mark and Don Polk are on here. And you want to tell her how you lost the weight, Greg?
I had a stroke. I don't recommend it.
fully recovered. Yeah.
Actually, I was losing weight last year, and a lot of it had to do with stress, but a lot of it also because of my desire to shed some tonnage. I picked up being immobile in that RV. There wasn't a lot of chance for exercising. You know, my commute was get out of the bed and walk 20 paces to the desk and sit down, and I never left there until it was time to go to bed. So I packed on a lot of weight in that 3 years that I was traveling, and then last year when I came off the road, I took it off.
But Greg, if there's a Texas Roadhouse nearby, you will still go to it.
Oh, it's more In-N-Out burgers that are my deadly favorite. Yes, and Raising Cane's, and down here in Texas, we have them both.
And what do we do with Miss Dawn when we go to a Texas Roadhouse, guys?
Yeah, and same thing with Laurie, with Michelle.
What do we do every time we go to the Texas Roadhouse? What do we take a picture of?
Your big steak for the vegetarian. That's right.
The whole cabinet full of steaks, right? At the beginning, and there's a bunch of them. Then I take a picture at the end and send it to her, and it's half empty because all the steaks we're eating. I mean, I would send her a picture of the vegetables if they put them on display, but they don't put vegetables on display, so I have to take a picture of the steak for her.
Hey, Jason Cole just joined us, so we got Good Sam represented from Massachusetts and Rhode Island now.
We got somebody from Wisconsin, Greg. Is this a member of your fan club?
Who's that?
Penny Elmer?
No, I don't believe so.
Oh, okay. And Jerry Plant from Cape Cod is on. We're glad to see him. We should mention, if you hear a little bit of background noise, it may be my dogs if you hear somebody barking. And if you don't hear him barking, you hear some background noise, it's John, because he is en route home from Florida, where he met his new brother, and is on his way back to Massachusetts. But you're in, what'd you say, you're in Charlotte, John?
Charlotte, yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
We're in Charlotte.
Wait, tell us what's going to be different about RV. We'll step back in time a little bit to when you decided to sell the publication. You were writing a lot of negative stuff. You were not in a good space emotionally. Tell us that road trip from just getting fed up with the industry and selling it, taking the year off, doing some other things, but then getting re-energized.
Sure. When I got the motorhome in 2014, I thought hitting the road full-time as a journalist covering the industry would be the #1 career enhancement that I could ever do. And it really was. The ability to travel around the country and interview people on location was a game changer, because it allowed me to see businesses from the perspective of the owners. We can interview them over the phone, but it's not the same, because when you're there face to face and they're giving you a tour of their facilities,
yep, totally different.
Really inject their story into that. So it was great. But I kind of screwed up as a newbie RVer, and I moved every 3 to 5 days. And that was a fast pace. And I still had to manage RV Daily Report, which is a daily newsletter. And then we launched Let's RV, which was a consumer daily oriented newsletter. So I was publishing 2 newsletters every day while inside my RV, traveling at least once, if not twice a week, to a new location. And it proved to be too much. I was exhausted, and burnout was heavy. And it took a toll on me emotionally. My weight and physical self suffered. And I could tell that I was getting a little bit more cynical. And that's because everywhere I went in my RV, and I should say almost everywhere that I went, and I'd go into a campground, if I identified myself as the editor of RV Daily Report, somebody wanted to say, "Oh, you work in the industry as a reporter? Well, let me tell you about this product or this service experience or whatever." And a lot of it was negative.
I was going to say, it wasn't much positive then.
Well, they don't talk about the good things, right?
They don't talk about the good things. The people who are, out having a great time with their families, making memories, seeing sites that they've always wanted to see. You don't volunteer that information as a general rule. That's the kind of stories that we are going to purposely seek out now in our newly revamped RV Daily Report.
Hey, Greg, let me just stop you for 1 second, because I think it's important to point out, and I know that you found this out as well, is that the RV itself is only a portion of RVing.
Right.
And it's the capability to sleep in your own bed, have your own bathroom, go when you want to go, be where you want to be, not at the schedule of an airline or a train or a bus or et cetera, but having that opportunity to maybe pull up to a beach and be waterfront property for a while, or go to a national park, which in a car, you generally don't get that opportunity. In this trip that we're on right now, because of this time of the year where I have my motorhome put away for the year, we're in a car. And let me tell you, there's one good reason to own an RV, at least one good reason, and that is public bathrooms along the highway. If that's not a reason to own an RV, then, whatever. But the RV is many times the means to the end, and the experiences are equally, if not more important than the RV itself. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I could share a funny story about that, because, traveling on the road in my RV, when nature calls, it's easy to just use the RV that you have, but you really can't pull off the side of the interstate. So what I would do is I would pull off an exit ramp, go across and come down the other exit ramp and pull over and go take care of business and then get back in and continue the journey. And one time I had just pulled over and was in the restroom and I heard this loud knock at the door. I mean, it was like instantaneous, 30 seconds after I had actually pulled over. And by the time I got out there, it was a police officer asking me if I had a problem. He saw me pull over and thought maybe there was an issue that I needed to deal with.
And you said, yes, officer, but I got it taken care of.
Yes.
Hey, Greg, we got another member of the Greg Gerber fan club.
Uh-oh. Who's that? Oh, good old Jeff. Super. Nice to see him again. Yeah. Looking forward to connecting with his family. They've been big supporters of mine for many years.
That's right. They certainly have. And we got Maria has joined us tonight. She's one of our regulars.
Okay.
And Penny here. Yep. And Penny is actually, although she's in Wisconsin, she's part of one of the Good Sam groups, and she knows Walter and Jason Cole. So she's a part of the Cedar Creek group to have that. And here's the other reason from Miss Polk, but you probably have an opposite story to this one. So yes, you can take your pets with you. So I'm sure that's where her thought process come from. But if I remember,
No.
Greg, you got to tell the story. You got to tell the pet story.
We can thank God for this one, for sure, because everybody said, you are alone on the road. You need a companion. You should get a dog. So I was in Branson, Missouri.
What do you want, DePietro?
No. When you brought up the pet, Greg and I both went like this at the same time without knowing it because we're thousands of miles away from each other. But go ahead, Greg.
I got a beagle dog from the local shelter and brought him on board. And I visited there twice to make sure he was the right travel companion. He was, calm. He was affectionate. He just seemed to be really, really good dog to travel with. And so the first night he was good. The second night he was a little bit more rambunctious, and then from there on he was a Satan's spawn. Let me tell you, he chewed through every cable underneath the seats in that motorhome that adjusted, the position of the motorhome. He chewed through a podcast cable. He chewed through an extension cord, and what really got him was going through my computer cord that was plugged in. And one day I heard a loud yelp, and he bolted out of the passenger seat of the RV where he was gnawing on my computer cord, and he made it into the bedroom where he was cowering in a corner. He had learned his lesson not to bite into live electrical cords. But the real clincher, he was only in the RV for 2 months. Then toward the end, I was at a campground and he turned into a ditch digger. I mean, I would let him out on a little leash and I'd look out the window and he had his back legs spread apart and he was just digging and dirt was flying out the back, digging these mines inside the campgrounds. And the campground owners were not really excited about that. I would imagine nobody ever said anything. But the real killer was one night I woke up to a horrible stench and I got up to look. Says, I'm like, okay, where'd you do this? And I looked all over the place and I could not see it. And I was thinking, oh, goodness, I missed a big one here. I got to get the dog out because he's got to go and he's just letting me know. And I reached for the leash and there I saw it. The dog had pooped on top of my dash, right in the middle. And that was it. He was gone. He was living with a daughter of mine a couple of weeks later. Yeah. So take your pets with you. Right. Maybe Don's pets, but not all pets.
Yeah. And look who's feeling sorry for him.
I thought you were going to say he went right on your pillow.
No. It was right on the dash. It was pretty nasty.
Right on the dash. Oh, God.
Hey, John, Maria says that she got to see you last night. To her surprise, you were chatting with her daughter's best friend, Dan.
To see John last night. The hypnotist. The hypnotist. I did a Be Live, on that issue that my granddaughter has, that Pans and Pandas thing.
Oh, the Pans, yeah.
And one of the people that's running it has brought their daughter to a hypnotist, and we did a Be Live yesterday. Talk about crazy. I was in Waldo, Florida, and in the middle of nowhere. Luckily, I had power in my computer, and I had my MiFi, and we did it from the side of the road with a train track behind us and cars going by. So it's just one of the crazy things. But through the magic of this program, thousands of people get to see that show, and we've already had 1,200 views on it in less than 24 hours. So it's pretty amazing.
Great. Ed Laturco is joining us tonight. Hello, Ed. Happy New Year to you and the family. All right. So anyway, we got off track with Buddy there, and you got out. Catch up when you sold the publication quite by chance, because you had different circumstance there.
Yeah, we did. My attitude was kind of negative in 2016. I started a series of editorials called the RV Industry Death Spiral that outlined a series of issues, important issues that are facing the RV industry, every segment of the industry, from manufacturers to suppliers to dealers to campgrounds to RV owners and even the media and associations. And that series was very well received. I think I got over 250,000 views on those articles, which really impressed me. And I think it was...
I'll tell you, there were some people that were upset about it, but the fact of the matter is, you are probably one of the best writers and journalists in this industry, and maybe in the country. But you're an old-fashioned journalist. You do your homework, you state the facts, you do research, you present both ends of that argument. Because for every one of those articles, you presented a correction technique that this industry could use to address those problems. And many of them, without giving you credit, have in fact addressed those problems right now. And I can't tell you, we've got 35 dealers in the New England RV Dealers Association. I can't tell you the number of dealers that would call me up when you did one of those series, one of those items, whether it was manufacturers or consumers or campgrounds, who said, I can't say anything public, Bob, but Greg Gerber has it figured out. And he's saying what the industry all knows, what the issues are. And it really wasn't negative. There's challenges with campgrounds. There's challenges with quality. There's challenges with service and enough technicians. And you just laid out for them, hey, these are the issues that the industry really has to take a serious look at and put in some corrective practices. And you laid out the roadmap for them. So although they probably would never give you credit, you gave them the roadmap for where they are today.
Well, thanks, Bob. I appreciate that.
And Bob and Greg, I think it's very important to point out that when in 2016, the sales were going through the roof, and the manufacturers didn't really have to pay attention to that issue, to any of those issues that you brought up, because people were buying them faster than they could make them. However, we just saw that December is the fourth month in a row that sales have declined over the prior year. So it may be very interesting, Greg, when you come back with the pen in your hand, that as the numbers are not going the same way, because they have to correct. I mean, even the stock market corrects, whether people will pay more attention to you.
Right. I'm looking forward to doing this and revisiting the Death Spiral series, but from a perspective of what's changed as a result of that. Who listened and who implemented changes to their business or their organization that are really having bottom line impact to helping RVers enjoy the lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's not just manufacturers and dealers. I mean, look at the activity that we see now with the RV Technical Institute, that we see with the repair event cycle time that the dealers are going to incorporate, that the manufacturers are going to incorporate, so that we have the real data. Now, you were going from real life experiences and what people were talking to you about, but the REX program is going to give us real live data from the dealers, from the time the customer brings the unit in, the service order is written, how long it takes to get it back, were the parts in stock, were they out of stock. So yeah, there's some very concrete and very positive things happening in the RV industry today that I would argue had their impetus. You gave them the nudge that said, hey, let's take a serious look at this.
And you're right, Bob. And it was my use of that motorhome for 3 years full time that really opened my eyes to the missing piece. Because there's one thing to talk about products that help people with porpoising as they're towing things down the road. And that's where the RV is going like this down the road. And it is an entirely different thing to experience it for yourself. And therefore, you understand why those products are necessary. And it was because of that full-time experience for 3 years that I saw the consumer side of the industry and the challenges that they face, that I was able to write that series of articles. But it also made me a very well-rounded journalist, I think, covering the industry. And I'm looking forward to bringing that experience as a full-time RVer for 3 years back to what we're doing with the new and improved RV Daily Report.
And guys, I think it's also important to point out that many of the aftermarket products that may have cured Greg's issue that he just referred to, the porpoising, many of those items are add-on items or aftermarket items, when in fact they should come from the manufacturer with those already included.
Oh, some of them are game changers when it comes to driving a motorhome, let me tell you.
Mm-hmm. Like a good, good shocks,
stabilizer,
and sway bars.
Exactly,
Okay.
Exactly.
We were at a manufacturer event not too long ago, and the person next to us pulled up with a 2018 model. And while they were there, they had an aftermarket person come over, and it didn't even have, they hadn't even driven it 1,000 miles, and they were having a new heavy-duty sway bar put on.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. That shouldn't be that way.
It was a night and day difference. I mean, I hated moving days. I would have trouble sleeping the night before. I was white knuckling most of the time on that motorhome as I was traveling down the highway, just because it was so hard to keep it in control. And I took it up to the folks at Roadmaster in Washington State and had those guys install some equipment, and it made an incredible difference. The RV never wanted to go off the road again. Turning corners and going on the ramps and things like that were not a problem. I could drive it one-handed. I mean, really, it was so much easier. And I never would have known that had I not had experienced that product. And that's the other thing that we want to do with RV Daily Report, because the industry gets cranked up about new products. Everybody's like, what's new, what's new? And they promote all these new products. Well, we had 500,000 people come into the industry last year, on top of 500,000 people from 2017. That's 1 million new users who have no idea that these products exist because they're not new, but they're tried and proven. And those are the kinds of things that we need to promote as well to help educate our
and they don't know about them because as newbies, many of them just buy on emotion. They decide they want an RV, and they look at the floor plan. And Mark Polk will tell you this and Don, from the calls that they get from people who buy their educational materials. They buy them, they love them, but then they start camping just like you did. And they hear the stories from the other people and the problems and how they solved them. So the industry wants to sell RVs, and we want them to sell the RV lifestyle, but we also want them to make people aware of these things. And if nothing else, after you sell it,
And maybe if it's not, did you guys just freeze up, Bob? Did you freeze?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, we did. We're unfrozen.
Without getting too technical, maybe Mark Polk could just add in what his thoughts are on the value of an appropriate sway bar for the size. Because you know what, I didn't know what a sway bar was until I saw one being replaced, and then they told me what they did. But Greg, I'm sure that after you had your work done, you didn't almost feel like you were tipping over when you were coming out of the gas station.
That's right. I wrote about that for 15 years, that these sway bars are essential. Yep. But until you experience one for yourself, you really don't appreciate the value that those kind of products bring to the RVing experience.
Yeah, and I would love to hear from Mark, but I put the website up there because that's too long an answer, and it gets us a little bit off target. But if the viewers that are not familiar with RV Education 101 go there and check out his online streaming training programs now that will cover a lot of the things that we would like to talk about there. Hold up on your story for a minute, Greg. I want to put a post that Michelle just put up. Can you see that all right? Then this jumps from your program to your podcast, but Ted Moore said, as a faithful listener to Greg for a number of years, I respectfully request he consider bringing back the rants. I can tell you, without even talking to Greg about it, I'm sure he will, because he was very disappointed when they cut out the initial part of that program. So I'll let you finish that answer, Greg.
To bring back the rants, I don't know if it's a good thing to be known for the ability to go off like a flamethrower, but sometimes you have to do that to get attention. And,
well, it wasn't so much that they were rants, but at the opening of the show, you kind of gave an update on weekly activities and stories and things that were happening. So we always look forward to that in the podcast. And fortunately, the one common bond that you had with all of us over the last year was that you retained responsibility for the podcast, although you were doing them for the new owners, but you stayed connected with the podcast, because I know it's one of your favorite things to do, and you got the perfect radio voice. I mean, John and I have the perfect television face, but you got the perfect radio voice.
Well, several people have suggested that I start a second podcast that is just Greg Gerber doing the rants, and we might do that instead of putting it on with the people that I'm interviewing. But we'll see. Actually, lots of opportunity.
You know what's interesting right now, Bob, is that Jose just chimed in there.
He must have woken up. He must have woken up for his nap.
Well, we've got two of the leading journalists, between Rolling on TV and RV Daily Report. It's pretty cool for us as hosts that have them on our show.
Well, thanks.
I think that's
it's nice to be here.
See, Mark could have solved your problem a long time ago.
Yes, he could have.
You just told him that you didn't like driving down the highway.
Right. Exactly.
So the podcast kind of gives us a nice segue back into your experience of getting the publication back, because you set up an appointment. You had a catch-up meeting scheduled with Terry and Aveda Cooper. So pick it up from there.
We should go back just a little bit further, Bob, and that would be to November of 2017. This was after the Death Spiral series had been published, and the RV industry was doing a lot of recalls at that time. And I wrote a story that was not entirely favorable to some manufacturers in the RV industry that I found out later was not entirely fair to them, because I had noted that there were a number of recalls and suggested that was related to product quality, when in fact it was not. It was the government coming down on manufacturers, telling them, you better start recalling more of these products because you have these problems and people need to know about it. So I picked on some people, and the industry kind of responded, and they went timeout, and they kind of launched an advertiser boycott, telling my advertisers that it was okay if they wanted to support me, but if they did, they couldn't sell them the company's product. And as a result, we lost a bunch of advertisers, which sort of just piled on to my negative attitude at that point. And I was ready to shut down the publication entirely in December of 2017 or 2017. Yeah, something like 2016. That's whenever it was. And people convinced me to keep it going. And then I had a conversation with Terry and Aveda Cooper that spring, and I said, I'm burned out. I can't do this anymore. And they were like, can we take it over? So I made arrangements with them to sell them the publication. Well, these guys are incredibly busy. They own something like 9 businesses, including a campground, plus the National RV Training Academy, the National RV Inspectors Association, the Mobile RV Academy. They're involved in Work Camper News and all that other kind of stuff. They didn't have the time to give RV Daily Report the attention that it needed, because it is a time hog. It consumes all the time that I have, plus all the time you have, John, and all the time you have, Bob, if you wanted to be involved in it. And so I was getting burned out, very burned out. And so when they offered to take it over, I gave it to them and just said, here, it's yours, take it over. And that was in July 1st of 2017 when I stepped away and they stepped on board. But fast forward now to November of this year, they knew that they didn't have the time to really give it the attention it deserved. And they asked me for advice on what we could do to breathe new life into RV Daily Report. So I split my time between Wisconsin and Texas, where I'm living, to spend time with my kids. And then when I got down here this fall, I had a meeting right away in Athens, Texas with Terry and Evada, and we brainstormed some ideas. And I promised to do some more thinking on ways that we could breathe that new life in. A couple of weeks later, we met again. And on the way over there, I was like, these guys, they just don't have the time to do this by themselves. And so when we started our conversation, that's the first question I asked is, do you guys have time to do this? They're like, no, but it's very important, so we're going to make the time. I'm like, oh, do you guys really have the time to do this? And they're like, well, what are you saying? Do you want it back? I said, I might. And we talked for a couple of minutes, and it was 45 minutes later, we decided that Greg Gerber would take it all over again by the end of the year. And so we closed on it last Thursday.
That's great.
It is.
That's great story. Yeah.
So, and then it's just a great opportunity for me to come in with the experience that I've had since January 2000 of covering the industry, plus the experience I had as a full-time RVer, to really do some things that others aren't doing yet. And so I like being a trendsetter, and we're going to try and do some of these things, and it'll be fun to watch what happens as it all unfolds in 2019.
Hey, I don't know how many sports fans we have out there, but Michael Jordan left and then came back. Right?
Cool.
Yeah.
So, and hey, Cher has retired 7 or 8 times, Greg. So you got 4 or 5 more opportunities.
That's right. This is actually my 3rd trip back into the RV industry. I don't know if you remember that, Bob. I started in January 2000 as the editor of RV Trade Digest.
Absolutely. Because I started in 1996 with RV News. Yeah. Yep. I remember when you first came in.
Didn't think that there was enough for me to do there to make my time worthwhile, because I just like to write, and there were only like 6 stories to write in a month, and I was bored to death. So I left to go try and do something else. And then about less than a year later, the editor hired to replace me quit, and the publisher was in a bind, and he called me up and said, could you do some freelancing? And I said, well, you know what? I might be more something more permanent. And we talked again, and he brought me back on board in my old job. So that was in 2002. And then I've been involved in the industry until 2017, left for a little while, and now I'm back. And I think I'm here to stay, unless, people come after me with pitchforks and torches.
I don't think that's going to be the case. I think you've got a lot of us who have no problem expressing our confidence in what you're doing. But there's a lot of people in this industry who may not say it publicly, but I've had some phone calls from people, and they are looking forward to having you come back into the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Wait,
Hey,
do you
Greg,
want to tell us?
Do you plan on doing some writing as well, or editorial writing, or just story writing?
Editorial and features.
Features,
we really see some opportunities out there to differentiate RV Daily Report from the rest of the publications by focusing, when it comes to the industry, on things like management, time management, marketing, social media, and things like that, rather than just products and numbers and things like that within the RV industry. For consumers, what are the number 1 and number 2 questions that people ask in a lot of forums is, how do you make money doing this thing on the road? How do you finance this lifestyle? We are going to get into that by showing how people do that, the ways they modify their RVs so that it can be used full-time for a family, And there's a couple of other things up my sleeve. I don't want to say too much because some of my competitors are notorious for copying whatever I do. So I want to be first on the scene with that, and then they can be the follow-up and do it themselves.
Well, and it's interesting because we published the promo. Let me just put it up here and just get rid of this.
While you're doing that, Bob, I just wanted to say that I've told this to Greg face to face. He's a marvelous writer, and it's almost a shame to only use your talent in, printing company-issued press releases when, in fact, the creativity that comes from you, a knowledgeable source in the industry, is needed as well. The feature stories may not be about the nuts and bolts of an RV, but could be about the glories of RVing.
There you go. There's a dealer telling you exactly what he wants.
Yes.
And they are. And I think that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to the most, because you are an originalist. You create stories, you investigate them, you write them very well. So that would be a real shame if you didn't come back with that. And I know that's a hallmark of you coming back, because other people aren't doing it. They just report the press releases. They don't write a story, whether it's a story about the Pastore family and the family Hartville RV out there in Ohio, or it's about Andy Heck, and he just posted his goals for the year. Andy's up at Alpenhaus and the number of miles that he runs and walks and marathons and Ironman and all the things that he does, or maybe it's a Jeff Hirsch. And I knew Jeff when he used to come back from high school and wash the RVs, him and his brothers, from their mother and father's first dealership in Acton, Mass. And since Jeff took over the dealership, he's got 20 dealerships around the country, and it's still a family-owned business.
I just went by the Jacksonville property. That must be the headquarters, right?
It is now, yes.
Yeah, I just drove by Jacksonville yesterday.
The building on the left. The building on the left of the dealership is the actual corporate headquarters now, which they moved down there from Kingston. So the number of stories that, there are too many stories to cover. And again, that's something that the others aren't doing that will really set it apart.
Everybody loves stories. That's the thing. They just love to hear stories, especially stories of successful people, because it raises the bar for everybody and it invigorates others to try to step out of their comfort zone and do things. You talk to any business owner and they have a passion about what they're doing and why they started their business. And that's the story, the why behind the business and the people behind the business. Those are the stories that I would like to tell.
Yep. And
I have a formal I have to need to throw the penalty flag here. I was going to say throwing the flag on the Steelers in the playoffs, but then I realized, hold on a second. The Steelers, what about the Steelers this year? They're not in the playoffs, right?
I don't know.
I don't know.
The Pittsburgh.
I follow a team called the New England Patriots.
Okay. Well, I'm told that the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I'm sure Mark Polk will answer real quick as to whether or not they are in the playoffs.
Yeah. But the flag was somebody asked a question, and then Polk went ahead and answered it, and we didn't even get a chance to talk about it. Sandy asked a question. See the beauty of this? I forgot to say the other experts that we have, the Dawn and Mark Polk people. This is a pretty cool group of people that we have on this list tonight. I was only joking, Mark, but it's the only way I could get in the part about that Pittsburgh thing that was black and gold, not making it to the NFL play.
It didn't take long. No, now, Mark, you know my rule on that, and I'd say the same thing to the Patriots and the Patriots fans when they complain because the last call of the game cost them. If you put yourself into a position where the ref has decided the game on a bad call, then shame on your team. You should not. It's not what you're out there for. It should not be that close that a single play or a couple of plays determine it. So I don't feel sorry for Mark Polk.
But they did beat the Patriots. Let's be fair. They did beat the Patriots.
Yeah, but now and Ed's got a good point. What's his name? Antonio Brown. He wants to be traded, and we'll take him.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. Like whatchamacallit, number 29 there, who played for the Steelers and then left, and the next year came to the Patriots. Number 29, the running back.
Mark,
help us out, Mark Polk. Number 29, who played for the Steelers and was disgruntled, came to the Patriots, and now he's playing, I think, with the Eagles.
Oh yeah. Lavernius or something.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yep.
Whatever.
So we had a couple of comments earlier from some of our viewers talking about, Sandy, I'm not avoiding your question, but the answer would be very long as far as some of the training stuff. But Mark has a lot of the online, on that RV online training program. There's some tips there for driving a motorhome. But one of the issues, and I think Walter brought it up also, is I get calls. I probably get 1 or 2 calls a week. People who find me through the NERV, the website, and they say, where can I get driving lessons for my motorhome or my fifth wheel? I just had one a couple of weeks ago that literally had bought a fifth wheel and a truck from a third party, had never owned an RV, had it delivered to their house. So they got the whole setup.
Wow.
And the woman was calling for her husband because she said, you got to find someplace that teaches you how to drive these things. And we don't have anything in New England. Lots of times I'll recommend the trailer truck training schools and hiring an instructor by the hour. But through the relationship that we have with Jason Cole and Good Sam, there's a former Good Sam director who spends his winters in Florida, but he is an instructor or has done some training or has helped other people out. And when he comes back in the spring, and they didn't need this training until the spring because they're not going to drive this vehicle. They didn't even want to drive it 30 miles to a dealer for training. But they've hooked up with this guy, and he's going to provide them training at their house so that they can go on the road safely. And that's a shame. That's a shame on the industry. I think dealerships have to have the names of people. And I think Good Sam or Escapees, people that have these full-time people in there, are probably a good avenue. Now, with today's litigious society, I'm sure some people say, "Oh, I'd never do that because if I teach them that, they'll sue me or something." But that's certainly one for your list, Greg, in terms of how do these people learn to drive them? Where do they go to drive them? We don't have a national driving school. There are some of the larger dealerships that do have it, but that's a real issue in the industry too.
Maybe we should.
One thing that I noticed when I was out at Winnebago for their rally back in July is that they have a lady who put on a presentation live the year before, but she couldn't do it this year. But they teach women how to drive, and this sounds sexist, but in most cases, the husband is driving the motorhome. But there have been so many cases when people get older that medical issues come up where the man is not able to continue. Oh, Bob, in your case, that was the exact scenario where you couldn't drive and may have to drive back all the way to Boston. But those seminars were standing room only, and they had to add more of them because people are realizing that every member of the family should know how to drive if the necessity becomes pressing.
That's what I think we're going to do with RV Daily Report. Not only, the driving instructors directory, I think is a great idea, but our publication is unique of all the other publications in the industry because our readers are comprised of industry professionals and RV users. So when we hear these kind of stories and we can take it to the industry, we're also going to be promoting self-employment and starting your own business and things like that, and providing these kind of opportunities for people. We will let the market solve these problems, and they'll do it pretty quickly once they're aware of just how vast they are.
Hey, Greg, speaking of your connections, have you been in contact with Kim Travolino lately?
A couple of weeks ago.
Okay, because I've tried to get her on this particular show, and we just, I'm for some reason, I'm not connecting with her. Sometime soon. Bob, this is the full-time families lady, who I think would be an excellent guest of ours, because they are just tearing it up. And
her husband just became a certified an RV inspector.
Yep.
Oh, is that right?
Greg?
Technician.
He started
Technician.
Technician, yeah.
Technician.
And technician, right. He went through the course. So he started another company because they travel. And I guess he's been helping people out all the time when they're traveling. They find out he's capable. He might as well make a few bucks at it while he's doing it.
Greg, tell us briefly how you know her and what your relationship is. What she does with Kim.
Kimberly, she and her husband, Chris, founded Full-Time Families, an organization designed to help people with school-age children live full-time on the road, work on the road, and road school their children, so that they would enjoy all of these great experiences, but still get a quality first-rate education. And that's how I met them. She has since sold Full-Time Families and is pursuing something else now. She's teaching people how to be chaplains in campgrounds. So I think that's a great venue for her. But I want to say that I'm noticing here we've got 76 comments and more coming in, and I haven't had a chance to look at all of these, but I've glanced at a few, and some of them are really good. I will look through all of these when the show is done, and I will make some notes as to things that we can do stories on early in 2019.
Yeah, we do that. I appreciate if you do that. John, we're probably going to go a little bit over because we like Greg so much, but we're 49 minutes into it, and you haven't given your little speech yet. So give your speech.
Oh, good Lord. Zagami, this is crazy that it takes me this long. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is John DePietro, and I'm the second banana on this show. However, it should be very important to note that the way that we grow this business is through you, the people that watch it and comment. And we can only reach a certain number of people, but the real people that make this show grow are you guys by sharing it. SHARE. So down at the bottom of your screen, depending upon whether you're watching it on a laptop or a tablet or a cell phone, there's a share button. So just take a few moments, either right now and, or when we get off, and just hit share. Send it to people that you know that are RVers. Share it with groups that you belong to. I mean, we share it to 25 or 30 groups, but unfortunately, every month or so, I get banned from Facebook for 10 days for sharing it too much. So we can only do so much from our perspective. And again, you know what? It's like if you share it, it's an endorsement, and we'd appreciate it if you would do that. And now back to our regularly scheduled program.
Okay, regularly scheduled appointment. Dawn knew exactly where I was going with that.
Share.
Just listens all the time. Well, Greg, we typically end at 8, but I don't think I want to. But just so that we have people that might have things to do at 8, what else would you like us to know? Like you say, you don't want to say too much about what you're going to do on the new publication, because I'm sure that some of the people on here are your competitors tonight, but they're not going to say, "Hi, Greg." But they're probably very interested in what you're doing and the fact that you're coming back. But what other things might you like to talk about?
We have made some changes already to the website to make it far more friendly on mobile devices, be it smartphones or tablets.
Yep.
And that's going to be huge for us, because I realize now, I've seen the statistics, and since I left and the time that I've come back, we have seen almost a
change.
Yes.
Reversal, right?
50-50 now, people accessing RV Daily Report on mobile devices versus their computers. So we are making those changes first and foremost. The newsletters are also being changed. And pretty soon people are going to have the ability to subscribe to a bunch of different kinds of newsletters. For example, the one that you're seeing right now, that's just the test one that went out today. Eventually, the first ones that go out are going to look similar to what we had before, but not really, because the last time we had little tiny pictures and a blurb and a headline, and it was difficult to read. These are big pictures. It looks nice. But we are also coming up with a newsletter where people who don't want to see the pictures and the synopsises of the stories, they can just scroll down a list of headlines. And that's it. That's how they would get their RV Daily Report each week or each day. We're developing a special weekend edition of RV Daily Report, especially for consumers. In the past, the weekend edition was for those people who didn't pick up RV Daily Report and open it every single day. We realized that people get busy. So the weekend edition used to be the top 50 most read stories of the week. And there was no new content. So we've done away with that. And moving forward, yes, there we go. Moving forward, the weekend edition will be of sole interest to RV owners and consumers. And so we're looking forward to that. Yes.
Yeah, Greg, you know what? I made a point. I wrote that down to tell you how clean this is. And the thing that I like best is that I don't have to keep magnifying the typeface. It's big enough as it is, especially for people that are over 50 that, have eye issues. So I think that was good.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's, again, based on experience, right? We're able to offer these enhancements based on our experience.
Yep.
Yep. So in addition to the different types of newsletters and the different content and the exclusive content that I'm going to be developing, we're going to tweak our coverage a little bit. It used to be that we would cover all of the news that we could find in that particular day, but we realized that a bunch of it people really didn't care about. So we're going to tweak that coverage, focus on all the press releases and all of that kind of stuff. But the unique things that we do, that will give us more time to do more of those kind of stories as well.
Now, for a consumer, and I'm frozen on the screen there, but for a consumer that might not want the industry news, they just don't care about it during the week, will they be able to sign up for just the weekend copy?
Yes, they'll just be able to get the weekend edition. We're going to have that ability here soon as we launch the new newsletters here in a couple of days. That will be available. And the same thing for the industry people who don't want to really know what's going on at campgrounds or with RV owners. They'll be able to subscribe to a special industry-only newsletter as well. We have the ability now through technology to produce multiple newsletters with the same content.
Yep. Very interesting. Before we go, I'll put a couple of little plugs in here. Ed mentioned it down below there. We have the Boston RV and Camping Expo, January 18 to 21 at the Boston Convention and Exhibition Center. And if you are faithfully following what we do on this page, you have begun this week to see our sneak peeks where we take every dealer, and we already went through the first round of 20 dealers and featured one of the products that they're going to be bringing to the show. And then if that's not enough to keep your appetite going, we've also been doing the pre-show videos. I did one with Longview RV today with the gang out there in Windsor Locks, Connecticut. We've done 4 or 5 so far. We'll do a couple more this week, and John is back in the saddle next week, so I'm sure he'll be out doing several other ones there also. So I think from a standpoint of the newsletter, from a standpoint of RV Daily Report, I think I speak for everybody, Greg, in thanking you for coming on the show tonight and being our guest. But did we leave anything out? I made a bunch of highlights, and I think we covered just about everything there. Or John, is there anything that you might want to add?
Are we going to do some drawings for tickets?
We are doing drawings every week. We're on our 8th week. As far as this particular show, I
think we should. I think we should.
Well, I got plenty of comp tickets. So yeah. So
never say that publicly.
Right. That's true.
You have a few comps left.
Jose woke up from his nap again.
Yeah. So, tell people about our new logo. Bring up our new logo.
I did. It's there.
No. I don't mean bring it up, but I mean tell people about it. Ask them how they like it. Which I just did.
Yeah. So you want that to be the contest?
No.
You want? No, I want for the con. and this only goes for the people who are on right now, and you're obviously local, type in a topic that you want Greg to consider writing about. Writing, not reporting on a press release, but a topic. Type in a topic, and we'll let Greg pick from one of those topics as to something that he may not have considered, but that he will now add to the news newsletter to the website. And I will send you a 4-pack of tickets. And if you want, I can hold them at the show for you. But pick a topic, write it down, and we will award a 4-pack of tickets because you were nice enough to join us. We're already up to 84 comments. So yeah, we always do go back over the comments. John and I go back to them. Great, I would appreciate it. And I'm sure they would appreciate hearing from you.
Bob?
Do you have, I don't know what this has got to do with the program. Do you have any idea?
Yes. Yes, Greg. Yes, John, I do.
That's a yes, Don. Okay.
Yeah. I think because when I was talking about the font, that probably what she meant. And Michelle, I know that it's what do you call it? Mobile friendly. I know there are various degrees of it. When you see this new one, this reads very easily. You don't have to scroll back and forth. This Greg, it really reads easily vertically, not horizontally. You don't want to go horizontal with a with a phone.
And Bob, can I add that I'd encourage people to like RV Daily Report on Facebook.
You certainly can. Yeah.
Whenever I'm out in the public, I will note it on Facebook. I'm making an appearance at the Tampa RV Super Show here in a couple of weeks, and I hope to have several gatherings down there in Florida where I can meet people who love RVing and have heard about RV Daily Report who can give me these same kind of suggestions. I'm looking at some of these things that are coming down on the live comments, and yes, all of these are great story ideas. And Greg's just got to hustle and get in some more money to help finance this program. So that
we should also mention that you need advertisers. You want to get a lot of those advertisers back into the program. I know you get a loyal following out there, so I don't think it's going to be too long before you have people, knocking at the door saying, "Hey, I want to be on board." But those people that are out there that have contacts in the industry, this is a place where we want the industry to spend some of their dollars and put it back into RV Daily Report. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, and that'll.
And you did mention early on, some of them may not have done it, but we'll pound our chest that we got your first interview, but your second interview is coming up very quickly after your first interview. So you want to talk a little bit about that and where you're going to be a little bit later on tonight.
It's in about 20 minutes with the RV Show USA. They asked me to be a guest on their show today. Like I said, it's the first week of the year. Everybody's still on vacation and people are desperate for guests. So they tackle the old RV Daily Report editor and see if he can come in.
And would you please say hello to Alan and Lisa for Bob and I?
They are great people. It's a great show. A lot of fun. A little bit different than ours because he's bunching that up and cutting it down into a radio show. But he does a great job, and he wears those great Hawaiian shirts too. So unlike John and I, who are much more formal, Alan will be there in his highly printable shirts.
Right.
But we should probably end it because it is 8 o'clock and our fans are so faithful.
Let's wait a couple more minutes. Let's wait a couple more minutes so we can reach 100 comments. We got 95. Let's see if we can reach.
We need 5 more people. We're not going to go off until we get 100 comments. We're going to keep talking. Keep in mind, you're cutting.
We're at 97 now.
You're cutting into Greg's break time because he's only got 20 minutes between shows, so it's probably down to 15. Oh, thank you. Sandy's RVing woman, and not these Veterans United Network.
Those are good. These are great ideas. I'm excited to be reading these when we get off here tonight. And,
well, Sandy, thank you for that. And that reminds me, Monday for the Boston show, all veterans in uniform or out of uniform service with proper identification, you can get into the Boston RV and Camping Show free on Monday. And one of our other sponsors besides NERVDA is the VA healthcare system, and they will have table set up. Let me tell you a quick story. We had a woman that was on our show here a couple of weeks ago, and I communicated with her after the show, and she told me the story where last year she convinced her husband to go to the Boston RV show, and they went specifically. She was after him for years. He was in the Vietnam War. He's a Vietnam veteran. She was after him for years to go to the VA and have them look into his hearing and his eyesight, which was deteriorating rapidly. And he refused to go, never went to the VA. He saw them at the Boston show last year. They set up an appointment for him. They had him in within 30 days. He has since been awarded, within 2 months, he was awarded a 30% disability. And they're covering his ears and his eyes. I think he's already had some surgery. But that VA healthcare desk, don't just walk by it. If you are a veteran and you are at the show, and Ed Laturka will back that up because Ed is the director of the Lexington, Mass. Veterans Association. So keep that in mind if you're at the show. They're not there for fluff. They are actually helping the veterans. And Greg and I were both Air Force veterans, so we speak highly of that. So yeah. So we're at 99, folks. So we're not going to shut it off till we get to 100. So who's going to be the
Walter? And Walter, let's commend Walter if he's still with us. There we go. We got the 100.
Yeah.
There you go. Cindy
well, thank you, guys. I really appreciate being on your show. It's been a pleasure. My first Facebook experience wasn't as anxious as I thought it was going to be. And
kind of fun, and it's easy. And why don't
we were easy on you, Gerber. We were easy.
Yeah, maybe after the first quarter and all the consumer shows are behind us and you've been to Tampa, let's have you back after RVX. RVX is the new industry event, March 11 to 14 in Salt Lake City. So let's plan on having you back after that, Greg, and I'm sure we will all have a lot to talk about that.
Super. Looking forward to it. Thank you very much, guys.
Happy New Year. Great to see you, Greg. You look fantastic. You're going to do wonderful.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Care.
I appreciate the support. Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye, John.
Have a great day, everybody.